The Emmy-winning journalist, known for her warm yet incisive interviewing style, welcomed the crowd with her signature charm, teasing an exclusive chat with Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, whose upcoming Netflix cooking series, With Love, Meghan, had sparked both excitement and controversy. Backstage, Meghan was poised but reportedly on edge, her sleek white ensemble a nod to her polished public image, though whispers among the crew suggested she was frustrated by recent tabloid headlines questioning her brand. American Riviera Orchard. The headlines, fueled by posts on X about her demanding NDAs at local restaurants, had painted her as a polarizing figure, and the tension was palpable as she prepared to face Tamron's questions. As the show began, Tamron's opening monologue touched on lighter topics of fall fashion trends and a viral TikTok recipe before she introduced Meghan with a glowing tribute to her journey from Suits actress to global humanitarian. The audience erupted in applause as Meghan strode onto the set, her smile radiant but her eyes sharp, hinting at a readiness to defend her narrative. Tamron, ever the skilled host, started with a warm question about Meghan's Netflix series, asking how she found joy in cooking and sharing recipes with the world. "Meghan, your show's promo has everyone talking. Tell us, what's the heart behind With Love, Meghan?" Tamron asked, leaning in with genuine curiosity. Meghan's response was polished, emphasizing her passion for community and connection through food, but her tone shifted as she added, "You know, Tamron, it's frustrating when the media twists that into something negative, like I'm just playing house." The audience murmured, sensing a spark of defensiveness. Tamron, unfazed, nodded empathetically but pressed gently, "Well, some critics have said the show feels like a departure from your advocacy work. How do you respond to that?" Meghan's smile tightened, and she leaned forward, her voice tinged with irritation. "Critics? Let's be real, Tamron. It's the same tired narrative from people who don't want me to succeed outside their box. I am building something authentic, and it's not my fault if they can't handle a black woman thriving." The crowd gasped, then cheered, some nodding in solidarity, others exchanging uneasy glances. Tamron, a seasoned journalist, kept her composure, but her eyes narrowed slightly as she countered, "I hear you, Meghan, and as a black woman myself, I know that scrutiny. But let's talk about the show and what makes it different from, say, other celebrity cooking shows." The question was fair, but Meghan bristled, interpreting it as a jab. "Different, Tamron? I'm not just another celebrity. I'm creating a movement, and I don't need to justify that to anyone, including this show." The audience's cheers mixed with murmurs as the tension escalated, and backstage, producers exchanged panicked looks, sensing the interview was veering off script. Meghan's tone grew sharper as she continued, "I came here to talk about my work, not to be grilled about media lies." Tamron, maintaining her professionalism, smiled tightly and said, "We're not grilling, Meghan. We're having a conversation. Let's pivot to your philanthropy. How's the Archewell Foundation tying into this project?" But Meghan wasn't ready to pivot. She stood up, adjusting her blazer, and pointed at Tamron. "You know what? I'm tired of these interviews where the host pretends to be neutral but pushes the same old narrative. You want real talk? Let's talk about why shows like yours lean into the drama instead of the truth." The audience erupted, some chanting Meghan, while others booed, unsure if this was a planned moment or a genuine outburst. Tamron, her face a mask of calm, leaned back and said, "Meghan, this show is about real talk, but it's also about respect. Let's keep it constructive." The rebuke was subtle but firm, and the studio fell silent for a moment as Meghan sat back down, her expression a mix of defiance and frustration. Backstage, the director signaled to cut to commercial, but Meghan, catching the cue, said, "Oh, don't try to shut me down now. You invited me here." The crowd roared, torn between shock and excitement, as Tamron raised a hand to calm the room. "Nobody's shutting you down, Meghan," she said, her voice steady but edged with steel. "We're just getting started." As the show cut to break, social media was already lighting up with clips of the exchange, with hashtags like #MeghanVS Tamron trending on X, and fans and critics alike debating whether Meghan's fiery response was a bold stand or a PR misstep. As Tamron Hall returned from commercial, the studio crackled with nervous energy. the audience whispering feverishly about the heated exchange that had just unfolded. Tamron Hall, ever the consummate professional, welcomed viewers back with a warm smile, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of determination to steer the interview back on track. "We're back with Meghan Markle, and let's just say things are getting lively," she said, her tone light but pointed, earning a laugh from the crowd. Meghan, seated again, smoothed her skirt and flashed a practiced smile, but the tension between her and Tamron was undeniable, like two boxers circling in the ring. Backstage, producers were in a frenzy, with one reportedly muttering, "This is either ratings gold or a disaster," as they debated how to handle the rest of the segment. Tamron, undeterred, dove back in, this time with a question about Meghan's American Riviera Orchard brand, specifically the controversial jam launch that had drawn both praise and mockery online. "Meghan, your lifestyle brand has people talking. Some love the jams, others say it's a tough market. What's your vision for RO?" Tamron asked, her voice neutral but probing. Meghan's eyes lit up, but her response carried a defensive edge. "The vision? It's about creating joy. Tamron is something the tabloids clearly don't understand. They'll mock anything I do, whether it's jam or charity work, because they can't stand seeing me build something successful." The audience clapped, but the applause was less unified now, with some sensing Meghan's frustration was overshadowing her message. Tamron nodded, her journalist instincts kicking in as she pressed further. "I get that, Meghan, but some posts on Zasari, I know you're not on there anymore, you say you've been heavy-handed with NDAs at local businesses. How do you address that perception?" The question, grounded in recent ex-posts about Meghan's restaurant visits, hit a nerve. Meghan's smile vanished, and she leaned forward, her voice rising. "Perception? Tamron, that's not perception. That's lies spread by people who want to tear me down. I don't demand NDAs, I ask for privacy, like anyone would. Why don't you ask why the media's obsessed with twisting my every move?" The crowd murmured, some cheering her defiance, others shifting uncomfortably as the interview took on a combative tone. Tamron, unfazed, leaned back and said, "I'm asking because it's my job to get to the truth. Meghan, you've said you want real talk, let's have it. How do you balance privacy with being a public figure?" The question was a masterclass in redirecting the conversation, but Meghan wasn't biting. She stood up again, pacing slightly, her hands gesturing animatedly. "Balance? There's no balance when every move I make is dissected by people who don't know me. You want truth? The truth is, shows like this thrive on drama, not solutions. I came here to talk about my work, not to be ambushed." The accusation hung in the air, and the audience gasped, some shouting support for Meghan, others clapping for Tamron's poise. Tamron, her expression calm but firm, responded, "Meghan, nobody's ambushing you. This show is about stories, not drama. Let's talk about your story. How about your work with Archie?" But Meghan, now fully in her element, shook her head. My story is that I'm trying to do good in a world that wants to paint me as the villain. And frankly, Tamron, I expected better from you." The jab was personal, and the crowd's reaction was a mix of cheers and boos, the studio becoming a battleground of divided loyalties. Backstage, the producers were in full panic mode, with one signaling to the director to prepare for a potential early exit. Tamron, however, wasn't backing down. "Meghan, I respect your passion, but this is a conversation, not a courtroom. Let's talk about what's next for you and maybe that new recipe you shared," she said, referencing the unappetizing pasta recipe mentioned in the search results. Meghan scoffed,